Hello, ACPS staff, and welcome back to another Adobe Express tutorial. In this video, we're going to talk about creating a presentation. So right here from my dashboard, I'm going to select on the thumbnail to create a presentation. And in our first video tutorial on creating a poster, we did everything from scratch so you could really see the process of adding content to a blank page. In this video, we're going to work from a template. Because I chose presentation, it's already loaded the templates filtered down to those that allow you to create a presentation. And we can see that they are separated into different categories, just as we saw with the posters. And when we want to see one in more detail, or we decide that we want to use one, we simply select on it from those templates on the side. So let's take a look at what we have here in the workspace. We have the template we just selected. One of the things that's different from a presentation than that poster that we saw initially is that we have multiple pages in our presentation by default. You can see that down across the bottom corner of my screen here, I have 4 different pages preloaded as a part of this template, just as we might expect in a presentation. The toolbar on the left is exactly the same as it was when we were creating the poster. We can add media, text, elements. Similarly, the toolbar across the top is exactly the same with options to resize, change the theme. We can see our background color, the translate tool. And then over on the right, we have our layers available. But I want you to notice as I select on the different pages that are here in my presentation, what I see on the layer stack changes because it is only showing me the layers for the current page that I am selected on. Similarly, in the bottom right-hand corner, I have the option to add a new page. When I select it, I get 2 options in a pop-up. I can just add a page or I can add a template page. If I choose add a new page, it will follow the theme. So it doesn't have those scribbles and brush strokes on it, but it is the same teal background for me to begin building something that will be uniform to the rest of the presentation. If I wanted to add another page, I could go back to the Add Page tool, but I can also use the 3 dots that appear over any of these thumbnails when I hover over them and use the page actions to insert a new page or a new template page as well. When I choose template page instead of new page, it shows me the original 4 pages that were a part of this presentation. So if I wanted another page that had that image side by side with the text, I can choose that before choosing add selected page. Also notice that it adds the new page directly after whatever page you had selected when you asked it to add a new page. You can easily drag and drop these into any order that you would like as you are building it to make sure that it has the flow of the presentation that you would like. Now let's talk about changing the content on the slide itself. In our video about posters, we built everything from scratch, but here we have placeholders. We have an image on the left, we have some text on the right. If I want to edit those, I simply select what I want to edit, and in this case, because it's text, I can drag my cursor around all of it and type my text into the text box instead of the placeholder text. When I select on the image over here, I'll get several options, including the ability to just replace the image by selecting down here, and then I can choose that I'm going to use Adobe's photos that are available, and it will load those over here in the window on the left hand side, so I can easily swap that picture with one of the ones that Adobe has available here from their stock images, or upload my own. Let's talk about 2 additional tools that are different in a presentation than what we found with our poster project. And those are very small icons down here in the bottom left-hand corner. We have one that allows us to add presenter notes, and then we have one that allows us to add page transitions. Let's start with our presenter notes. Just as we would expect for another presentation creation tool like Google Slides or PowerPoint, you can add presenter notes on a particular slide to remind yourself or whoever might be running this presentation to call out certain things that are on the slide or additional information that anybody attending that presentation might need. So now that we've added some presenter notes, let's talk about actually presenting this file to viewers. When we move our cursor to the upper right-hand corner here, you'll see that we have a present option and then a drop down next to that. When we select present, it immediately loads us into presenter mode. It turns our cursor into this sort of laser pointer so that we can be pointing to whatever content on the slide we're currently talking about, and then every time we click, it moves to the next slide. As I move through these slides, there's two things I want to point out to you. Number one, there's no transitions at this time. Every slide is simply disappearing and being replaced by the next slide. The other thing I want to point out is I added presenter notes to one of these slides and we're not seeing any of those. And that's because if you add presenter notes, you want to make sure that you go into the correct presenter mode to actually see those notes that you've added. So if I choose the drop down next to present instead of the present button, you'll notice that I have presenter mode, which starts presenting with the presenter notes. So if you build a presentation and add presenter notes, you're going to want to make sure that you choose this option rather than just selecting present. So now when I choose presenter mode, we're going to see that it loads a little bit different this time. We're seeing the thumbnails across the bottom here with all of the different slides in our presentation, but our slideshow is kind of loading in the background, and what we see in the foreground is the window with those presenter notes on any of the slides that we added them to. So very important if you're going to use presenter notes that you choose that mode for presenting. When you're done, you can click Exit Slideshow or click the X here in the corner to be taken back to Adobe's creation window. Now that we've seen the presentation, let's talk about using transitions. Transitions are going to allow you to choose different ways to progress from one slide to another. For example, you can have the initial slide kind of dissolve away as the new slide comes in. You can use slide, you can use push. As you hover over these, it does a quick animation in the workspace to show you what it looks like. When you add one of these, notice it adds it before the slide that you were selected on. So let me do that one more time so that you can see what I mean. I'm going to select on slide 4. I'm going to come over here and choose slide, and it adds that transition before that slide. We're going to go back into present mode, and I'm going to click, and you'll notice that slide across the screen transition that we had set between slides 1 and 2. All right, we've got one last stop on creating a presentation, and that is the ability to work collaboratively in any type of project. So if I move my cursor towards the upper right-hand corner, there's an option to invite. This option will work for both staff and students in Adobe. You can invite other people to work collaboratively in a project with you. So I'm going to select here, and I'm going to start typing in the email address of my coworker, Carrie, and it's going to search and find her, and I'm going to select, and I'm giving her editing permission because I want her to be able to build this with me. I can type in a message that she would receive by email, or I can just click invite to edit. The next time that she signs into Adobe, she will see that invitation there, and she can jump into this presentation with me, and we can both be working collaboratively at the same time. When Carrie is in the presentation with me, I will see her icon up here in the little circle right there. And if we are working on the same slide, as she is editing content on the slide, I will be able to see her cursor moving around so that I can see exactly what she has selected, see exactly what she might be typing or changing, so that we're not both trying to select the same text box or the same image at the same time. I can even be working on a completely different page in the presentation so that we really prevent actually tripping over each other when we are working on this presentation. All right, our very last stop is going to be talking about version history. Whenever we create things, we might ourselves get a little too far into editing and think, oh, I liked the previous version. So it's nice when you know that you can back up or reset something, but especially when you're working collaboratively, knowing that you can find a version before someone started making changes that maybe the whole group didn't agree with. Version history is one of our best friends in these types of tools. So if you follow my cursor to the upper left hand corner, we'll see right in between the Adobe Express for Education and the title of our current file, we just have the word file. When I select on this, it allows me to do several things with the file that I'm currently working on. I have the ability to start a new file. I can move this, I can rename it. But one of the things that we really love is the show version history. Just like we expect in our Google tools and our Office 365 tools, I can revert back to a version that existed at 11:50 this morning or 11:47 before we started making changes that maybe I don't want to keep as a part of this presentation. So when I select on that, I have the ability to revert back to this version. I can make a copy of this version that it will bring back as a new file. So we don't have to worry about going too far down the rabbit hole of making changes before we go, oh, I don't want to keep any of those changes. So in this quick tutorial, we've looked at starting from an existing template, working with multiple pages, adding transitions, adding presenter notes, getting into the correct presentation mode to see those presenter notes. And then we've talked about working collaboratively with someone else and how you can see each other moving in real time while adding to and editing that file. And finally, that version history so that you can revert to a previous version of a file if you decide you don't want to keep changes that you made or that a fellow colleague made when working in a presentation.